Talkline, welcome back, and please welcome the minority leader of the West Virginia State Senate, Democrat Roman Prezioso of Marion County. Senator, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Hoppy. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good to talk to you. Senator, as we've been talking about for the last week, we now know that the Justice Administration is looking at cutting, at least possibly proposing cuts of between $400 and $606 million from the general revenue budget for next fiscal year. That's 10 to 15%. Is that realistic?
I don't think so. I've looked at the spreadsheets, and when you look across the agencies, you're going to have to get deep into this budget to get another $400 million or, even more than that. And I don't think it's realistic. I think you're going to do deep cuts. You're going to have to get into situations where, you just don't want to go into. You're going to hamper services and things of that sort. And I think we've got to be very careful and very diligent about going into this budget, because as I look over the spreadsheets, there's not a lot of things to cut, and things that will, most things are protected in statute already. So you're very limited on the areas that you can cut.
So, and you're the former chairman of the Finance Committee. Clearly, there have to be some cuts to be determined how big. What is a realistic amount that could be cut, in your opinion?
If you look over the entire spreadsheet, I think that it has to be a combination of general revenue increases and cuts, and I think it has to be a combination of both. And to do that, we're going to have to sit down at the table and work diligently in finding those cuts. That's our long-term problem. The short-term problem we have this year, we're going to come up, $125 million short for this year?
Right.
The only way you're going to get that, I think, is, and I hate to say this, is the rainy day fund. That will get us out of trouble this year, and then we're going to have to get serious about what we're going to do for the FY18 budget.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check real quick here and see how much is in the rainy day fund. Now, I'm thinking probably about
$632 million.
$632 million. So it's still
to take $100 million out of there.
So you think that the best alternative for this year is to take $100 million out of rainy day this year?
I don't think you have any other choice.
Yeah.
We're 7 months into this fiscal year. By the time we go into session, 2 months, any proposals that we have, the agencies would obviously, have to get those things in place, and you're at the end of the year. We're going to run out of time, and it's just not going to be feasible to do that. And I think, I've looked at this thing, and I've got a little acronym. I call it, we're in the PEC mode. We're into privatization, we're in elimination and consolidation. That's what we're going to have to diligently look at.
Senator Roman Prezioso is with us, the minority leader of the state Senate, Democrat, Harrison County, also former chair of the Senate Finance Committee, so he knows the budget pretty well. Senator, so you think it should be a combination of cuts and revenue. Where is the best, if you want to go revenue, where is the best approach? Consumer sales tax?
Yeah, I would say that the consumer sales tax, 1 cent, you're going to get about $200 million. That's going to get you about halfway there. And then you can, look at another $200 million in cuts, and that's going to be the challenge right there.
Mm-hmm. So right now our consumer sales tax is 6%. It is there's another penny in a lot of communities around the state. So you're talking about raising another 1 penny, 1%, and raising, I think upward. I think the max is about $200 million on that.
Yeah,
you would raise.
Yeah, it's slowly declining. I think at once it was about 225. Now it's somewhere south of $200 million.
Senator, another option being talked about in terms of new revenue or tax increases is removing some of the exemptions, some of the sales tax exemptions on some things in West Virginia, most notably the food tax. The food tax is exempt from the sales tax. There's a lot of money there. Do you think there would be any interest in putting the sales tax back on food in any way, shape, or form?
It has to be an option. That's slowly declining too, I think. But put the 6% back on, or 6 cents back on food is certainly an option that we're going to have to look at. Maybe it won't be 6%. 6 cents. Maybe it'll be 3 cents, and half cent on consumer sales tax. I think the challenge is going to be to find some common ground where these cuts are going to come from, first of all, and when legislators look at the magnitude of what needs to be cut, and how it affects their certain areas, they may have a change of mind. So I think we have to go progressively into this process to show, at least our folks, exactly where the cuts are going to be, and the option would be, general revenue.
Senator, when you talk about, as a guy, again, who has experience with a budget, when you talk about cutting between $400 and $600 million out of the general revenue budget, what would that look like? I mean, can you be specific? And I know that you're not proposing the cuts, that would come from the governor when he proposes his budget or from a legislative budget. But give me some examples of what would be cut to get that kind of money. Because people always say things like, well, you could eliminate the state vehicles. And in fact, there's just news today that Department of Corrections is going to get rid of 35 or 45 vehicles. But that just doesn't, and that's a good thing, but that doesn't touch it. So where would the big money come from?
Yeah, there's not a big pot of money that you can put your hands on. You're going to have to take, categorically get down to this budget and cut programs. The education budget.
Okay.
You may have to look at cutting, the FHA camps and conference centers. You may have to look at the School for the Deaf and Blind, performing arts. You just, and I'm not saying you cut these. I'm saying these are the least things that affect people. You can't go into military affairs and cut prisons and the state police and things of that sort. So when you look at this budget on a spreadsheet basis, you're going to have to go in and pick and choose entities that add up to the big number. And that's what's going to be difficult. If you look at higher education, if you look at privatization or elimination of some of the schools, you're not talking about a whole lot of money. I mean, most of the colleges and universities average about, $10 million that we give them. So, you're not going to pick up a lot of money by eliminating half the colleges and universities. That's the problem you get into. And you look at, health and human resources. I mean, what can you cut there?
Well, I don't know. That's the challenge. That's the challenge.
In there that won't get you $1 million.
Yeah. Senator Roman,
problem you get into.
Senator Roman, President, you sound depressed.
Well,
it is depressing, by the way.
I've been mulling over these figures and looking at the transportation line item. You can cut the state rail. If you cut all of transportation, you only pick up $6 million. And that's the Port Authority, the public transit, the state rail authority, and things of that sort. You don't pick up a lot of money. So subsequently, you've got to add all these things up to get the big number. And that's what's going to be the difficult process, because obviously if you're going to cut something in my area, that's going to raise my hackles. And,
right.
And if you start looking across this budget and eliminate things that affect a lot of legislators, you're never going to get to first base.
Well, that's an excellent point, because that's what happens when you go to cut things, is cut it in your district, not in mine.
Exactly. So that's the problem you get into. And then the only alternative is the general revenue to raise the, taxes and fees and things of that sort. And I know there's a great apprehension to do that. I certainly don't want to raise anybody's taxes in this situation that we're in, but we're just in a real dilemma right now.
Senator Roman Prezioso, the minority leader of the state Senate, former chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. Senator, thank you for your time, and we'll see you in Charleston.
Thank you. I'll be looking forward to it.
All right, good to talk to you.